Hi, welcome back this week. I am looking again at the scene of the well in Samaria. And this time, so last week we did Jesus' conversation with the Samaritan woman, and this time we kind of have this little interlude where she leaves to go tell the Samaritan people that she thinks she might have found the Messiah, and the disciples who have returned are trying to get Jesus to eat, and he is trying to convey this idea of a spiritual harvest. So if you speak Christianese, you may have heard about kind of the harvest that Christians are looking for in terms of souls won for God. So I'll take a look at that. That's the kind of the last point in the study. But before that, one of the first things that I found out when I started to study this is that I had always kind of glossed over it before, because just like I studied in the last study, the Samaritan woman was shocked that Jesus talked to her because he was a Jew. Jesus' disciples, however, when they come on the scene, are shocked to see him talking to her because she's a woman. So apparently, as I studied, it was considered beneath a rabbi's status to speak with a woman in public. So this was a big deal that he was talking to a woman at all. And her place in the world is kind of further exemplified by the way she goes back and talks to the people of the town. So in this sort of clannish Samaritan culture, women were not able to make decisions even for themselves that were of any consequence without really a man. So when she goes back and says, "This man told me everything I ever did, could this be the Christ?" So she basically has to paint this picture. She goes specifically to the men. That's what the Bible doesn't say. She went to the people. She went to the men of the town, and she paints this picture of what happened and says, could this be the Christ? Basically letting them make the decision about who it was and what had happened. So, or at least giving them the, putting the ball in their court to do the remainder of the investigation. So, anyway, that was pretty fascinating to me to, every time you read something, your eyes can be open to a totally different aspect of it than you had ever considered before. So, that was sort of my aha moment for this study. And then as the people are coming, the disciples get really anxious and say, Jesus, you only have this little bit of time to eat. Please eat. We brought you this food. And he says, I have food you don't know about. Similarly to the way he was talking to the woman. He said, I can give you living water that you'll never thirst again. And likewise, he tells the disciples, I'm not hungry because I'm satisfied by doing this work. And then he starts talking about the harvest. So in a farming community and in this society at that time, the harvest was a time of really great joy, because they knew not only were they going to have sustenance that day, but they were going to be able to sustain themselves until the next harvest through whatever hard times there might be in between. So similarly, in this ministry that they were building, Jesus wanted them to see, number one, these people, and that it was time for them to come to know Jesus as their Savior, that there was no time for waiting, and number two, that the joy from doing that was going to sustain these disciples through whatever they were going to have to go through as part of that ministry and while it was ongoing. So anyway, take a look at this one. It's a little shorter than last week, and hopefully you have a couple minutes for it. We'll see you next time.